So hi guys again. This is the class 2. Today, from the previous class, we learned about introduction to R. We got to know about what these components are for, how we can modify it, how we can custom it, how we can also download it, and we also learned how to download packages and what actually a package is. We're going to be learning about how to download package in some later classes. Now, let's say this is and we're going to start today by working an introduction, a little introduction to data types, to variables, and basically these are the fundamentals of R, of any coding language. If you go in C or Python, you need to understand what data type is, what a variable is, and how actually we can make a simplest calculator on R today in this session. So now, this was my previous class file .r. As I think I forgot to mention you how to save this. You can go and save as. We can go to practice session. Let's say this directory will come up. If you want to create a new folder, you can create a new folder. As I don't need to, so I'm gonna go cancel it. I can go and double click on practice session and name a file class1.r. And even if you say .r, if you don't, it's gonna save anyway. So let's say I create a new file, and today I create an R script. And the only difference between R script and R notebook is that there's not a difference. There's not really a difference. But there's a difference between R Markdown, which you can see from here. R notebook, R Markdown. This R Markdown is it does help you with embedding stuff in HTML or a PDF. So you can actually transform this whole script into one big PDF or one HTML. So you can do that, or one big text file. You can do that with R Markdown, but not with the scripts. So, in order to do the scripts, you might have to go to a Word document and cut, copy, paste, and all of that. Not really good for simpling coding. But let's say if you're making a project, you can do that. But now, let's say we have this file I want to save as, and I'm going to name it as class2.r. And as you can see, we are already in the working directory, which is practice sessions. I'm going to save it as save. Now, today, we're going to be learning about basically how to do various mathematical operations. So here are my notes, and today we're going to be working on these topics. So we know what addition is, which is basically plus, and you can see this looks green. It's not blue, or it's not red, or it's green. Why it is green? Because it's commented by not using a hashtag, but by using a single quote. So you can add end to end, you can add single quote. Let's say if I don't do this, so this will all turn to black, and this will say errors, nothing like that, you can't do that. But then when you click on it, when you select all of it and just press single quote once, it will comment it down. So the console won't read this. So now, coming to addition, and we can also put a hashtag in there. It's not a big deal. You can put any of that, whichever you like. I like to put with I like to work with. Oh, see, it also goes for spell check. That there's an error with the spelling, and here. Oh my days. Yeah. Now, if I want to do addition, and I want to say, let's say 4 plus 5. So do you think it's going to run? It's definitely going to run. You're going to see 4 plus 5 is 9. And you can see the output here, which is 9. But what you can't see is that this doesn't work. This is still say environment's empty because you're not creating any variables. You're just working with numbers now. That's why. Let's say I go with subtraction and try to do all of this. And you also try to do these stuff with yourself, because the more you code, the more you learn. Let's say 5 minus 4, and I just run this line. It's going to say 5 minus 4 is equal to 1. And if I want to do multiplication, I can say 5 into 4, and for division, I can say 5 divided by 4. So it's 5 into 4 is 20. 5 divided by 4 is 1.25. And exponentiation. Now what is that? It's basically the power which is raised to, let's say 2 raised to the power 2 is 4. Oh, I just multiplied it. So we use the raised to the option to put an explanation to a power of a number. So it's 2 raised to the power 2 is 4. 2 raised to the power 3 is 8. And we can get that, like we can see that 2 raised to the power 3 is 8. Now, with the modulo, what we can do with modulo is, let's say 24 percent 4. So it gives a 0. So I don't know if you know about modulo, but modulo gives a remainder of the division. So when you divide 4 by 24, there's no remainder because 24 is in the table of 4. So there's no remainder, so it's 0. But let's say I do 25 divided by 4. So there should be a remainder of about 1. So there would be a remainder of 1 left. So it's used in various things, but it's very good to know in advance. Now, we're going to be learning when we are clear with these numbers and how to actually just add them or subtract them. We're going to move on to a simple mathematical equation. Let's say I have apples and I say my apples, and I say I have 5 apples. So I say 5 points an arrow towards my apples and I name it as my apples. I also have oranges and I say I have 10 oranges, right? I run this and you can see there's an environment created. It says my apple is 5, my orange is 10. R knows it. Now, what we can do is we can try to add it. My apples plus my oranges. Now, when I do this, it says 15. Now, you may say that you could have just done 5 plus 10, 15. It's as simple as that. But let's say you are a third person. As you are listening to this video, or you're watching this video, and I'm talking about this, I'm making a video. Let's say a third person comes in and sees this whole code and just say, oh, why did you divide 5 divided by 4? It just say division here. So it's a kind of little bit of clarity that, yeah, it's dividing. But what about if I don't create variables and I say that, oh, 5 was my apples and 10 was my oranges, and that's why I downloaded it here. Now, you could also save this number in a different variable, which is my fruits. And you can say by my arrow that it should be saved in my fruits, and you run it again, Control Enter, and now you can see there's no output. But you can see here that my fruit is 15 now. To see the output, you can just say my fruits, or you could just say view my. Now, if I just stop here, you can see that there's many options. My apples, my fruits, my oranges, and then there's library, date, which is basically a date library. And you can see that what it says on this description that what date means. But as the variables is a pink variable, so these are variables which are created, and I can see that I want to put, let's say I don't want to type now, I just want to type half, and I can help with this. So R really helps you by just clicking on it, and you say view my fruits, and when you say view my fruits, you can find your fruits here, or I just stored in here now. So you can at any time whatsoever, you can call my fruits. You can just write it down and call it by Control Enter, and you will see the value. It won't change. Now, so this was one example of just simple maths, right? So now we're going to be learning about data types. First is numeric. Any number which is 4.5 or 4.0 or 4, these all are numeric. You can check by typing the class of those number. So you can say class, and you can say which class they belongs from. So there are like 4 classes: numeric, character, integer, and logical. So as we can see, class 4 is numeric. Now, what else we can see? Let's say I type my name and I say it is in quotes, in double quotes, ABC, and I run this. And then I say the class of my name, and it says character. So this is the second class, and every character needs to, so a string or a character needs to be in double quotes. Let's say if it is 4 and I say my number and I say it's quotes 4, so this now won't be an integer. This would be a character because you added a quotes in there. Now the next one is my logical, which is basically true. And believe me, logical operators are very important, and they would be used in the next classes and so on. My logical 2 is false. As you can see, they all are in false and they all are in true. So if I run this and if I see class of my logical is logical here, so the true and false. So let's say my name is ABC. Is it true or not? It's true. So we can use these operators in the following classes. We will be going in depth afterwards. The last topic today is to create a simple and easy calculator. A calculator would be, let's say there's a number 1, then there's a number 2, let's say I say number 1 is 10, number 2 is 20, and I'm going to perform a calculation. I say number 1 plus number 2. So I can do that, and I can see my calculator works. But this is not really a calculator. A calculator definition is that you give a number, like a third person gives a number. This is predefined numbers, which I have already defined. These number 1 values and number 2, you can't really change it. You can change it by entering here, and not a third person needs to come here and see your code and then change it. We're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to say my number read line. So it's a function read line. And what does read line do? It asks for prompt. In prompt, we say enter number 1. And for the my number 2, enter number 2. So when I run this, we can see now the whole code is nothing happening, but you can see it says enter number 1. So now the control is here. So you need to click here and it's going to say enter number 1. So what number you want to enter? I want to say 50. I enter 50. Now my number 1 is 50 here. But you can see this 50 is different. It has quotes on it. So which means that the number I entered is not an integer, it's a character. So how can I change that? I can say my number 1 should be as dot integer, and it should be my number 1. So we're going to change the data type of this number by running. And we can see now my number 1 is changed to 50L and not 50 quotes. This L means that it's a 32-bit long number, which is a computer term. I can also change my number 2 by adding as dot integer in front of read line and closing it in the brackets. I can say my number 2 and I can run this. And any number which I give now would be by default an integer. I say 60. Now it's 60 up, as you can see. Now I can tell them to print something now. my number 1 or raised to the power of my number 2. It says my number 1 not found because I have added a number different. The n is capital, so be beware of what the variables are using. It says 8.67317 plus 101 because it's a raised to the power, so it's 50 raised to the power 60, which would be a very high number. You can change this by adding positive sign, and can say 110. By subtracting it, you can say minus 10. 50 minus 60 is minus 10. You can also multiply it and divide. So this would be a simple calculator that asks a user that how to enter numbers. So you're gonna enter the numbers and you can make it sure by creating different level of mathematical operations such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So that would be all for this class. In the next class, we would be learning more in detail. Bye-bye then.